Okay. I think we're live. Hope this is being recorded. This is 115 people are waiting. Let's see if this can start up. Drop frames. Yes, it's recording. We're live. Yes, we are live, Nick. There we go. Okay, if you guys hear me, please put a 1 in the chat. We may have a delay from how we're broadcasting to YouTube, so we'll try to figure that out. And if you hear Nick, please put a 2 in the chat.
Hey guys, happy Mother's Day, happy Sunday.
1 and 2
I'm sorry,
coming through.
Richard's not with us on the call, so we're figuring out the technology.
Okay, we got a bunch of 1s, 3s, 2s. Okay, perfect. So we will get started. This is going to be a really informal session today. It's our first one. It's just a live broadcast of what we're doing as we scan the markets. And let me know how the quality is, how the audio stuff is, so that we can kind of get a hold of this. Audio is kind of low. Try to put it up on your side. It should not be low. Okay. So these streams will be basic, informal. If you guys have any questions as we go through, the markets, let us know on YouTube. I have the chat up on this side. If you are seeing a blurry picture, it's likely the quality on your end for a live stream. So you could pause for a little bit and watch with a little bit of a delay, right? But overall, we should be good to go. So Nick, how do you want to get started? Do we start looking at the markets first, just the S&P on a daily, and then we'll take it from there?
Yep, let's start there.
So I'll get rid of RMB at the bottom. So we have the S&P. So thoughts on the S&P, basically what we're seeing is we made highs and we had a rally up the right side, right? We had quite a really good trend. And how do you know when a trend is going? Or things are acting well? It's when the 10-day, which is the green line on my charts, is above the 21-day, and they're both rising, right? So we had a trend up the right side, and then we had a pullback in the markets, which is a shallow correction to the mean, so that we can see, if there's new demand that can develop, so that we could go right back up the right side and continue the trend, or we go into a deeper correction where both the 50-day, the 21-day, and the 10-day start declining to the downside. So with this correction that we recently had, this uptrend, this red line, which is the 50-day, the rising 50-day, we broke that. We traded below it, but the rising 50-day, the slope of it remained to the upside, which is a positive, and shows you that the correction that we had was relatively shallow.
Yeah, right. They're saying audio is going in and out.
Sound is cutting in and out. Okay. We don't know what we could be doing. It's on your side, Zoom vid stuck. Oh god. Okay. Same here.
Richard.
Audio is choppy. We need a Richard here. Just give me 1 second. Sorry, apologize. We're trying to figure things out. We'll figure it out. MacBook. Nick, maybe you want to give Richard a call. Feed us a little sketchy. I don't know what that means. Sounds fine. Audio is awesome. Your audio is cutting in and out. It's your side zoom that is stuck. Okay. It says 0 drop frames on our side. Audio is choppy. Okay. We'll figure it out here. Just give me a second. Nick, you want to call Richard? Because I have no
Yeah.
idea how to use this. Advanced properties. MacBook speaker. It's 100. It's better now. People are saying 1, very delayed. There's a lot of latency. Fine now. Okay. Now audio is good. Yeah, so if you're having audio issues, it's likely just you gotta pause because it's a live stream. You need really good internet, and that's likely it. So the audio itself is fine. Nick, I think we should be good because it says there's no drop frames on my side, so I don't think we should pause a bit too.
Yeah, try to go again. We'll try to give it one more go.
Okay, so we have the chart of the S&P. We're just discussing, the rising 10-day and the 21-day. We went, had a really good trend from November up the right side, right? And we rallied up into April. That's a good solid 4 months of trend in the markets. And then we had a break of the 50-day. What I was just discussing was as we went into this correction below the 50-day, the slope of the 50-day was still rising, and that shows you that this correction that we had was relatively shallow, right? It was a shallow correction, and now we rallied back up the right side, which is a huge positive sign. Based on what I see in the markets, there's enough to work with at the moment. In terms of the S&P, we're right back near all-time highs, which is a positive, and some consolidation here before we attempt to go through these levels will also be great. Nick, if you want to go over your thoughts and what you see in the S&P.
Yeah, I still think people are having trouble hearing us. I don't think people are hearing us.
I got half people saying fine, half people saying no. So I don't think we should just keep going. Voice comes and goes, picture is clear. How about now? Is it better? We'll never know, Nick, because there's a delay. So the comments that we see might be a little bit delayed.
Okay, yeah, let's just continue. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, you could go ahead.
What were we talking about, the S&P?
Yes.
Yeah, well, for me personally, just I wasn't active trading for a little bit while the market was correcting, and now I'm starting to see I'm a weekly first trader. I'm focusing on the weekly chart, so I couldn't find many good risk reward setups on the weekly. A lot of stuff kind of went, and so to find trades personally, like I was starting to move onto the daily chart, which is not like my strong suit. So that was kind of a sign to step off the gas a little bit for me in the market. And now I'm just noticing there's a lot of charts setting up like new stage 2 opportunities. And so from a weekly perspective, at least for the market, we're in a much better position right now, obviously, than we were a month ago. We're starting to see a lot of setups come through.
Awesome. Yeah, let's take a look at the QQQ as well. So the Qs are pretty much the same picture, right? We saw rising 10-day, rising 21-day, rising 50. They all got really, smushed up and together into one place right here. And then we got direction. And this is kind of what we call a formation of a launch pad. So as we get the 10-day, the 21 and the 50 all close together, right? All close together, and we break below that, we're basically seeing directional movement from a launch pad setup. So we broke the 50, everybody was really cautious, right? We came back to this prior highs. So what I like to do on my charts is, especially on the indexes, they always at some point will come back into prior highs, test, the prior consolidation, which is what we had over here. So we had a consolidation, breakout, trend, break down, come back, retest the prior highs. We hold those levels, and then we go back up the right side. And we're kind of seeing the same. Some of the concerns that I see from people recently have been about, the volume up the right side is declining as we rally up. So we're seeing some wedging in price action increasing, volume going down. So they're a little bit hesitant as well. My take on that is basically up the right side as you go through these consolidation pivots, right, and not base pivots or prior highs. So something like this, when we're about to break a prior high, you'll see an increase in volume, right? An increase in volume when you're going through prior highs. But as you go up the right side, as you could rally from, being below the 21 day to being above it, you don't need volume for that, because a lot of the supply has been absorbed. Now we see the counter reaction to that. There's enough demand, but we don't need big volume to rally up the right side. What we need is eventually, when the Qs end up testing this area up here, the prior all-time highs, that's when we will see an increase in volume and see demand push, come through, which is what we saw in this prior consolidation that we had in early January. So we saw an increase in volume, breakout, rally, breakdown, and then now we go up the right side, which is very similar to this right side, and you'll see it's also similar to this right side, where the volume is not that heavy when you go up the right side. If you
I think
study the markets,
that's super important,
yeah,
because I used to miss out on a lot of moves because I would think there's no volume and we're moving up, so it's going to be failure prone, and then it gets to prior highs and you've missed out on a lot of it, and then a big bar comes through, and so now, yeah, that's a big part of my process, just understanding that.
and also just volume analysis in general. If you guys are looking at the markets as a whole, there's just two very simple rules. First one is consolidation pivots don't need to have big breakout volume, and base pivots when a full base is formed out 3 or more months, and then you're going through that, you'll see a natural increase in volume because the stock is making a 52-week high, the stock may be making an all-time high, the stock may be in the eyes of many strategies and traders, that's what causes an increase in volume. Whereas a consolidation pivot, which is up the right side as we move through, doesn't necessarily need huge or really big volume. Let's look at the Russell as well, Nick. The Russell 2000. Kind of the same story as the Russell has struggled quite a bit. Hasn't really, it wasn't a huge correction. We rallied up the right side, but it's really been choppy if we look at the weekly here. Let's just go to the weekly. Overall, the Russell has not been leading, right, to new all-time highs overall. So they've just been sticking around all of 2022, all of 2023, and most of 2024 now. We're just seeing the giant consolidation build out. And I think this level, when we get above it, let's just put a number on it, 212.49, which is this prior high. If and when we do try to attempt this will be a multi-year high in the Russell, and we might see some new demand come through. And also this prior high, if I were to put a line on this, we haven't breached that since 2021, right? November 8th of 2021. So there's a lot of levels on the Russell to the top side, but I think
What are your thoughts on, so like when I look at this, I see that we went between like 160 and 200 for a really long time, and that now the range since all of 2024, the range has been 188 to like 210. So we're still in that congestion zone, but we are like above where we have been consolidating or chopping around, I should say, for quite some time.
Yeah, I think.
Does that mean anything?
Yeah, I mean, like the way Russell trades is you'll see like small caps just in general in the markets, they're very thematic. So if a group gets going, or a small cap, part of the small caps are going, you'll see these rallies, and then all of a sudden they die down. You'll see these big rallies, right? As a whole, the market will lift. A lot of stocks, smaller caps, less than smaller market caps, will go. But what I think is, once we take out this 212 area, we might see an acceleration and get really quickly back into this 226, which will be huge for the markets because that's not been the case for over 1.5 to 2 years now, overall. Something else, I look at QQQE just to see equal weighted ETFs, how they're acting in the markets. So equal weighted ETFs will basically give you a picture of, if you take the Nasdaq 100 and you equally weight them, how on a level playing field, how are things acting. And you'll see that the correction that we see on the Qs has been very similar on an equal weighted basis and on a weighted basis. So that tells you just the market as a whole is being swayed one way or the other. There's no divergence or no major divergence that we see where the big caps are coming down strong and everything else is holding up. We're not seeing that. What we're seeing is kind of the opposite, where things are moving down and together, and they're moving up the right side together as well. There is a little bit of weakness in the equal weight in terms of where it is relative to the all-time highs. That's very subtle. I don't think that's a huge deal. But we'll see how that plays out over the next couple of weeks. If we get some consolidation, some pullback, a back test of the 21-day will likely be key. So when we eventually come back in, the 21-day will rise up. And when we come back in, if we're able to hold that rising 21-day on the Qs and the SPY, that will be a good test. That will be our first stress test as we go up the right side on low volume. So that would be something I would prepare for. Next week is to see if we do get a pullback. I'll be watching that 21-day and not really panicking or anything. Just see if there's secondary demand that comes in. See if the volume lifts when we test that rising 21-day as well. Awesome. So Nick, what are some of the things you're looking at? Are you going through the up on volume? What's kind of your routine as you prepare for the markets?
Yeah, my routine is every day I run the up on volume screen. That's where pretty much all my ideas generate from. So I'll run up on volume, and I'll find something that will either get added to its basing or just a volume list. Like if it just has a lot of volume, and so I want to keep it on the radar. And then when they eventually get to a buy point where I can get good risk reward, I'll move my focus list. And then I just wait for an entry pretty much. Do you want to jump into individual stocks?
Yeah, let's start looking at individuals. So one of the first lists that I manage and I keep up with is the high volume list. If you guys have been following me for a while. So the high volume edge is basically broken down into 3 different types. I see a lot of people trading high volume gap ups, but maybe on earnings, news, etc. But the evolution of that, or making it even better, is to segment them out into the highest volume ever, the highest volume in a year, and the highest volume since IPO. Those 3 things will kind of separate, mathematically they have better statistics. If you're working with the highest volume ever, it's more likely to succeed and double in price and then some, versus a highest volume in a year, which might be, a 1 to 3 day, 1 to 5 day move, and then it just goes back in. So let's start with just cleaning up the high volume list, see what we have on there. So we see Dell with a gap up, fade. So this was a highest volume in 1 year. It wasn't the highest volume ever. So it's now consolidating right into prior highs. A few things that I keep on my charts, one of them being, is a stock in a relative strength phase? So a relative strength phase basically means, is it outperforming the S&P on a 21-day basis? And if it is outperforming the S&P on a 21-day basis, you're automatically into strong stocks, right? You don't want to be trading stocks that are lagging the S&P or the Qs, because then you're trying to, you're fighting against the trend. There's not enough accumulation in those names as well. So that's one of the first things that I tend to look at or keep on my charts, is the relative strength line up here. Nick, what are your thoughts on Dell? What do you see?
I haven't really looked at Dell, and to be honest, when I look at your daily chart, I don't really see anything. I need to look at a weekly.
There we go.
Um, yeah, Dell's like obviously strong. For me, like if it was to break out from here, just my approach, like it's ran quite a bit, uh, and it's near highs. So if we were to break out from this area, I would just have to put on like a smaller position than if I was buying the breakout back in
September.
November around like the 70 area.
Yeah.
When it broke out, yeah, right there in the 70 area, that's like, that was a much more controlled base, and it was a much earlier base. So something there, I would be willing to take a much bigger position in. So where Dell is right now, like it would have to be a smaller position for me personally, just to feel comfortable.
Awesome. Let's keep going through this list. We'll clean it up as well. So path, I think I'll take off. Palantir. This one has been interesting. It moved up the right side into earnings. We had this really good day, and then after earnings, it's back down. So I'll continue watching this. The reason I'm most interested is it's the highest volume ever in this particular name. The issue this name has is it has a lot of stock out there. They're doing a little bit of buyback as well, but it's in the eyes of the market, so it's gonna need a new consolidation here. We'll keep it on the watch list. We don't need to remove it, but not much else to see there. I think ZS we'll get rid of as well. Coco, I don't see much here either, right? No, we'll get rid of Coco. NVMI, not much there. Udemy, it's gone back down. Let's get rid of that. Lemonade, you have their insurance, right, Nick? Lemonade.
Yeah, for my dogs, it's
Okay.
completely AI.
Yeah, I don't see much there. We'll get rid of this on the HV. Lily, it's been consolidating. This might interest you, Nick, if we go to the weekly here. It's kind of a new consolidation, right? You would have bought somewhere over here through this high.
Yeah.
That's the second consolidation. Now we're into the third consolidation. Keep an eye on the chat just to see. Some people are saying frozen charts. I don't know what's going on. We'll never know. Half of the people say it's good. Half of the people say it's not good. Should check our chat.
Yeah, if you guys are experiencing bad video quality or audio, we apologize. We'll make sure that good next week. But we're gonna have to keep grinding through here.
BGC looks interesting. Brokerage. Financial technology company.
Pull up DOCU on a weekly.
DocuSign. Yeah. Just give me 1 second. There we go. What do you see here? I have the 10-week and the 40-week up on the charts.
Looks so much nicer on my charts. So what I see is you can see your green volume that came in. So the above average volume that came in at like 50 and pushed us up. And then we had that strong sell off a couple weeks later that came down to that exact level again. And it's never gone below that level. And now it's kind of just working up the right side. This one's like confusing for me because this chart looks like such a low risk like opportunity, but I know they have like a couple thousand employees, and I don't understand how their app like has that many employees, or even why it exists anymore. But weren't you saying there's like rumors of a buyout or something for this one?
I think the best case for this company is going to be like a buyout where Adobe or something or someone comes in right at the right valuation. There's so many companies now doing the same, like the e-signature, whatever. Like Adobe has their own you know, kind of the same thing that they offer within their own. So in terms of like a unique proposition, I don't. I think, I mean, it's basing well, right? If and
Like
when.
the 30 week is starting to go up, and
Yeah.
like if you were to buy it right now, like it's just a super. You put it at. I would put my stop below the low of 2 weeks ago. So that third candle there.
Right here.
Yeah.
Right around 55. Yeah. Well, let's go back to. I like BGC. I like what it's doing in terms of like a base, big volume. Just have to look into what the company actually does. A lot of social media names have popped up recently, right? So Pins, Snapchat, both after earnings, gapped up and are going. Let's just take a look at it from a weekly. Nick, what are your thoughts here on the weekly? So big run up, right? Big volatility, goes, basically does nothing for quite a while, and now it's trying to come up here. There's been a lot of buyout rumors on this one too.
Yeah. It's interesting. Nothing like special though.
YPF. This one is a company in Argentina, oil and gas, has been acting really, really well. Still voice issues. I have no idea what to do. Half people's like, we got our own folks saying there's no issues with voice. Any. It just might be a bandwidth thing for people, but let's keep going. Not much to see here. So this one was one that I picked on a while ago, and I said that this, you have to know the type of HVs you're trading, and I felt like this will not do anything for quite a while, because of just the type of company it is, and what they're doing and what space they're in, and it's really done nothing. So HVs are not like, oh, automatically you see a highest volume in a year, and that becomes a good company. You just have to, you need a different dynamic to kind of separate the best from the rest. And if you look at what the company does and why they gapped up and the earnings and all that, there wasn't really much in there. This was just a liquidation event. That you gap up, you liquidate stock, and then you go back into this basing area in terms of potential as well. So I'm gonna get rid of this. KD, Nick, I don't know if you like this one. It looks really good to me. So here's the weekly on it. So again, this stock, big base, I guess IPO comes in, doesn't do anything for a couple of years, right? We're 2 years in, and now it goes into all-time highs, basically, prior highs. So it's just,
Oh, that's super interesting.
yeah, this one moved. In terms of what they do, I don't know that, but we could take a look at what they're doing. It's a company. I'm gonna put a prior high on that. Go to daily. Let's just zoom in a little bit and talk about what we could do here, right? There might be a lot of risk involved. If you get in up here, you're gonna have a little bit of trouble, right, managing risk at this point. So what I would do is, or what I tend to do is, I go to the 15-minute chart. I just want to take a look at what's going on on the HV day itself. So when it gapped up and it ran, what were some of the support areas? So I see volume comes in on the first bar, which it always does, and then we see secondary volume coming in and supported. So if it were to come into, I would say, this zone, right around, I guess, 25 eventually, so the nearest whole number is 25, put that there, put a label of whole number, right? So if and when it does come in, right, into this area, how it comes into this area will be a good spot to get involved at, because there's a lot of volume in these initial sticks that cause the HV, right? 600K, 800K, 500K in volume. So if it were to come in, whoever bought here will maybe buy more and support it. It's a very simple concept of volume support on high volume names, right? The second level I would watch is the 27.5 on the top side. So if we put so it's tested 27.5. It's usually a key level, especially for a name that's done an IPO, basically U-turn, right? Going back into its prior highs from 2 years ago. So I'm gonna put that here as a prior high, and then when I go back to my daily, I'll kind of see how I need to prep. So I would love a consolidation, some sort of consolidation, and then a move up into 27.5. That's how I would get involved if I am not in this name at the moment when it gapped up. The second way I would get involved is it comes back in a little bit. How it comes back in, right? If it's due to market pressure, it's takes 3, 4, 5 days to come into this level. That might be interesting to get involved in. But these would be the two levels I'm interested in. Nick, weekly perspective, we're just going, huge into these prior highs. I think it's starting to look really good for this name. I just wish the volume was a little bit better last week, right? The volume stick was up here instead of down here.
Yeah. This isn't a play that I'm too comfortable with. This is one where I'll wait for you to say, buy this, and I'll buy it. But if I was to feel like I had to buy this, I was forced. It would probably, if it went through the IPO prior high and volume was really heavy, then I would, you would just have to buy it and just probably set your risk right at the low of that candle.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm gonna move this to my focus list for next week, just to, keep tabs on it. The other one is WGS. This one had a HVE. It has a prior history, but it had the highest volume ever. So here's a weekly on it, Nick. Your thoughts on this weekly that you see?
Are your charts logarithmic?
Yep. No, they're not logarithmic. They auto fit. Let's see. They should be. Okay, I can make them logarithmic. There you go. I don't use logarithmic too much. I just use regular scale. But what are you looking at now? Looks
Nothing really. Yeah, nothing special again here for me.
Okay, if we go to the daily, for me, I think this name is, we have this stick. Now, you need to look at the reason that this gapped up, what they do as a company. Are they in a technology, healthcare type of space where names tend to double and double again, right? But I think it's acting really, really well. I've been involved in this name, so we saw highest volume ever. We saw follow through volume, and then now we see a consolidation. On the top side, I would be watching just a flat, prior consolidation high. So it's building a mini consolidation here. So I'm going to put a prior high label. And that will give me, when it moves through here, we should see an increase in volume come through. The thing I like about Friday on this name is that it came in, volume increased, and it closed up, right, above the prior day's close, which shows you that there's enough demand and any pullback is being soaked up on the short term, the daily time frame. So when we see volume through here, we'll likely see an increased bar, volume greater than prior day, based on this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 day consolidation that we see in this name, and then we'll see how it acts thereafter. So this one is also something I'll go with focus list. Looks like a good setup that's forming. JBL speakers. We'll take this off the HV. SDNE. This is frustrating, this name. SDNE, the way it trades is just brutal. Look at the weekly on this. What do you think, Nick? The weekly's good.
It just looks exhausting. It just looks exhausting. It doesn't look like much is gonna happen. But obviously, if the character changed real quick and we shot up and volume came in, that would be a different story.
So
you get in here with pretty low risk. It's just I feel like you could just go sideways for another couple months.
Yeah, so I'll put a line on the prior consolidation, right, is where you want to know. So it's free to draw lines on charts, by the way. It will help you out visually. I love drawing, weekly supply zones. So if we take a look at this particular, like, the break line where it started consolidating is basically this area, right? If we take a look at this area being our weekly supply zone, if we get through this, if and when it tried to go through it, came back in, held the rising 30 week, came back in, held the rising 30 week. If it comes back and attempts this at some point, I feel like if and when, and this is like just assuming that this is the only chart in the market, right? There's obviously better ones, but if you were to analyze the weekly on it, if it gets through 20, it's going to move really quickly, basically. So it's the whole base that's being built is below this 20 area. If and when it gets above, could be on earnings, could be on great earnings that they report. Something happens, as a catalyst for the name, gaps up into the 20 area. I would expect, everybody that's short from here and below is now underwater, and we're going to see short covering, catalyst, news, whatever, all come in through at the same time, right? And when they come in through at the same time, you're going to get a rally in the name, a single day rally. So it's, I drew the weekly supply zone that now shows up on my daily. We have a prior high to work with, and then we can also track, I like tracking whole numbers. We'll get into that in a couple of streams once we have good audio and everything confirmed. But I will get, the 20 area is like a whole number where the whole base is being built under. So we'll keep that on the list. Tree. Nick, we'll go to weekly to get your thoughts. I'm just going through each of the HV names, seeing if anything is setting up. Do you see anything?
Yeah, not really.
This doesn't interest you, all these spikes? Or you just don't like my charts?
It might be your charts. It might be your charts. I don't know.
Okay. Again, it's another HV name. It's been a prior winner in the markets. What I see is the fact that it broke below the 10-day, and market wasn't too weak on Friday. It was okay, and it pulled back in is a bit surprising. So we'll just keep it on the watch list. Garmin, sometimes it's not beneficial to know what businesses are doing, right? I like this company to me is like a Dell. And in the back of my mind, I'm always looking for newer companies that are disrupting, etc. A Garmin or a Dell is not going to disrupt, even if they use the word AI for too long. So I have a bias there, so it's a positive and negative, right? To know what companies are doing and what they're not doing. But this is a third gap. I continue to kind of watch it. Obviously, you see the power of it. Holds up on day 2, rallies above the 10-day for quite a while, breaks below bases, earnings come in again, coming in again. So
It's also sometimes not good to know what a company does. Like, there's pros and cons, because I've missed out on amazing trades because I was like, ew, I don't want to buy this company. Like, what do they? I don't believe in what they do. And with AMR had a massive breakout like for months, and that was such a clear buy when it broke out. I remember I told you I said I want to buy AMR, but it's a coal stock. I don't want to buy coal or something, which was wrong. But yeah, definitely it helps and can hurt.
let's keep going. ANSM. I don't see much here. Get rid of this name. NUBL. Oh wow. Get rid of this. Huge downtrends. Some people trade this garbage, but I just like to mark it up and just track it. If you have any questions, ticker symbols we could look at, please put them in the comments on YouTube. More than happy to get to those eventually. We're just going through names. I just want to clean up this watch list quick so that we could talk about a focus list for next week. This one's been a good one. Nick, I don't know if you've checked out the weekly NTNX up the right side. Really good trend. So we're now into all-time highs, it looks like. Yep. So what they do is they lower the cost of hosting, like you know how we use Amazon AWS. So what they do is they vouch that they can lower the cost of hosting and computing by 60 to 70%. That's what the business claims, right? So
They give any more information, or they just claim that?
no, they're really good. It's one of those up and coming, like obviously the price action shows, right? They're doing something right. They can't be
Yeah.
doing, you can't just be making claims. But this one is going into all-time highs, so that's interesting for me. Ross has been all over this one, especially after we saw. I think in this area, Ross was really bullish on this because it was showing relative strength. You see all these pink dots, so it was showing relative strength new highs back in 2023. And he was really, looking at this name. It was one of those names that exhibited relative strength while the market was correcting. It held all the MAs. It did all the right things. It was a little bit choppy, but now you see the power, right? You've gone from 30 to 60 based on relative strength here. So this one's a really good one to study. Nah, I don't know. There's so many comments of audio problems. All good. Hopefully, I am recording this, so Lulu can go off the list. ANF. Nick, your thoughts on this one? ANF Weekly.
I was just looking at it actually, like we're building out a little base, like for sure.
How would you tackle this, like if we were to just analyze the trend itself, right? And just go like week by week before it broke out, if you want to walk us through, like just walk us through that as to what you see on the weekly, right, as it goes. So I'll just keep going bar by bar as to how you would see it, where you would get involved.
Like right there, probably. So what I see is we have 3 higher lows that came in,
This one,
and
this one, and
yeah, is that the 30-week moving average or the 40-week?
this one is realistic, like weekly, 10 and 40.
Cool. Yeah, I use 30, but literally it doesn't matter. Like either way, if the 40 catches it, it's the 3rd higher low. So right there, I would like be paying attention quite a bit because it's getting, like I said, higher lows. And then right where those bars start to come up and break that high is where you have to enter.
And then look at this trend. Holds the 10-week all the way up. All the way up. Doesn't breathe.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't, just for the record, I didn't buy any of it. In hindsight, like that was an easy buy, but
yeah.
this was a crazy trend.
They also changed the way they do marketing. Everything, like as company culture, was a huge thing, and then they also went viral with like a lot of stuff with the younger crowd. So that was part of like what's fueling this, like the reason. But obviously, price action, like it held the 10-week. They changed the company over, becoming like a discount retailer to like a fashion trend type of thing.
Yeah, I like, so hopefully if the audio's not working, nobody even hears this, but I'll just say it because it's funny, but my first job ever when I was 16 was Abercrombie. I made like $7 an hour, and it was a really bad work environment. Like obviously the money was so bad, but also like it was just like a toxic work environment. Like it was really bad, and they would make you like buy new clothes for work, which was like my whole paycheck when I was 16. So I really didn't make any money there. But I just like, from my experience, I kind of dismissed ANF because I was like, there's no way that company's like still relevant. But I went to the mall the other day, and it's like a completely different company than what I remember. It's like completely different.
keep going. GD. Let's see what this one is. General Dynamics, right? Yeah. Not much to see there. LMT, it's again one of those older companies will always make money. PSN, I don't see much. So I boiled down to kind of just weed out to the ones that we want to be tracking. Let's go to the focus list just to see what's on it. So APP, you probably want to cover this. You're still in this, right?
Yeah.
So let's just go through like where you got in and what you thought of. There's a lot of volume up the right side. It's crazy.
Yeah, so this has been like I've been on APP for quite a while. I really don't like your charts, so I'm just pulling it up here too. So this first came on my radar back in October, or no, April of 23. So back over there, yeah, like we made a higher low. This stock was just completely beat down, and then it has its first since it started its downtrend somewhere in, I guess that's January 2023, it breaks above the 10-week moving average. So for the first time it breaks above the 10-week to the left,
right here,
there, yeah, right there, we break above the 10-week for the first time. So, and there's like really big volume on that too. So right there's like, that was the first sign of, okay, this stock is like completely off everyone's radar. Tons of volume came through. It's above the 10-week for the first time ever. But like, I'm still not going to buy something off the bottom like that. So I just kept it on my focus list, and then you could see like it sells off for 4 weeks after that and finds support. And that right there is its first higher low. So now like that's its first higher low. It's now above the 10-week moving average for the first time in like over a year. So that right there is like, this is the beginning of a very, very new trend. And so I got involved originally like somewhere around after that when we broke highs, I want to say like April 23. And so I fortunately was able to ride it from like $16 until the base, the latest base that we had, like that really big, nice base.
This one?
I got shaken out that first down week, or somewhere in there. So that closed out my trade. But then for the second half of that base, I just kept buying the weakness, and so I got back in for this new trend. So APP has been my top focus this year, and so it's been my best trade by far. It reminds me of Tandem back like a couple of years ago. It's kind of the same thing, but yeah, that's basically like what I'm looking for. First, huge volume, breaking it through the 10-week for the first time since the downtrend. It sells off and makes a higher low, so that's like you got to pay attention. And then it just rides the 10-week perfectly, like all the way up. So
what you just said is what Stan calls 4B minus. So he calls this a 4B minus going into a 1, stage 1. So where you're in a stage 4, right? And then you reclaim the first moving average after a big downtrend. You reclaim that's this area. So he labels this a late stage 4 going into stage 1. So that's a new setup that he's been working with, is the 4B minus. We have a preset for it in Deep View as well. And then he calls this, when you reclaim that first moving average, what's the room to run? So the distance between the 10 and the 30 or the 40, right? He calls that, okay, now it has room to run to this at the very least, which is, again, it was declining and it kind of caught up over here, right? And then this would go into like, okay, now it's a early stage 1 when it reclaims DMAs. So, and he looks at higher lows, the same way you just said.
So
exactly
my character change is pretty much his 4B
minus. It's literally his 4B minus.
I'm gonna have to beat him to it and brand it.
So the way you described it, like he looks exactly like, just a different way of seeing it based on stage analysis, but the way you see it as character change, like higher low, reclaim of MA, distance to run to the upside, and big volume coming in. All of that.
Yeah, like so these are what I call, we have a character change preset in Deep View. It says beta just because like it's not perfect yet. We're still working on it, but basically like this is my bread and butter play like on the weekly, because what I love about this is like you can buy pretty aggressively, like because this is so early on in the trend. Like you're putting in your first high or low. And so if it breaks that new high or low, like it's invalidated, you're out. But it's so early in the trend that like, you know, like right here, if we were to buy the most recent breakout last week, you would have to, this will probably be successful, but just because like now that's a base on a base, like on another base, I would have to buy like a little bit lighter. So if I was buying APP last week for the first time, I would buy like a much smaller position than what I normally would. But the reason why I focus so much on these character changes is just because like if you get in on like a higher low character change like that and it works, like you're sitting in the very beginning of a trend, and that's ideal for me. Like I like to hold as long as possible, and let it do its thing. So yeah, that's how I played APP.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking at this as if we go to daily. We had a good consolidation, right? I was anticipating that this is going to go into a base for a while, but it popped up. Nothing to do up here, I would say. Just keep it, keep track of it. If the market is down for a couple of days or a week or two, and then this stays above this low, then that's a clear sign that this wants more. It wants to go to 100 eventually. So that'll be.
And if you go back to the weekly real quick, knowing a stock's personality is so important. And since I was in this stock, like I was in this stock really early, and I was very, very familiar with how the stock trades. So knowing APP, like I knew never to buy it on strength ever, and always buy it on weakness. And so this base, that big base that we built in, what is that, September, to that big base on your screen.
Right here.
The real there, yeah.
September.
That one, like
September to early January, so a couple of months.
Yeah, people kept buying that and getting stopped out, and buying it and getting stopped out. And I know like there was a lot of people on Twitter that like were getting frustrated with the name, and they were like in and out. But because I was in it a lot earlier, I knew like, every bit of weakness is like a gift, and I won't buy strength. So if you just bought each weakness inside that base, like you're just slowly building very, very low risk positions. And by the time it actually broke out of like 45, I'm now like already up with like a 10-15% cushion. So it allows you to like, if you understand the personality of the stock, it allows you to just be a lot smarter with your trades and how you execute.
Yep. So the next one I have on my focus list is ASPN. This one's been acting well. I mean, it gapped up and it's going regardless of market down, up, whatever. It's held up really, really well. So that's something to pay attention to, but there's no setup here. I would say there's no setup. CPNG came back in, has a down day based on earnings, rallies up. Just watching that. Doesn't need to be on the focus list, just kind of watching because it has prior relative strength. While the market was pulling back, it was up. So I expect demand to come right back into this name eventually. KD, we already talked about. Reddit. Nick, anything you see on Reddit?
Oh. It's interesting. Like the weekly is definitely short. Did this just IPO recently? Yeah, it did.
So ran up
Um,
week 1, 2, faded, went into this. It's very shallow, like not much of a base. You can't really call this anything. But
yeah, like to me, I look at this and it's like I feel like it's going to go much higher, but I don't know how to get in, honestly.
yeah, so that's something to just pay attention to. Just gonna put a line near 50 just to see if it's above 50. Good, base is great. If it comes in, shouldn't be on the focus list. So I'll move it back to IPO. Thoughts on this, Nick? SG, big gap up, highest volume ever. Here's a look at the weekly for you. So this is when it IPO'd actually. We have prior data, but it IPO'd right here. So this would be the week 1 all-time highs. So double click that, all-time highs. Thoughts on this? This is the highest weekly volume ever on this, on earnings. Sweet green. Very similar to, I guess, Kava and stuff, right? New restaurant chains or
Yeah.
It's 11 o'clock.
What are your thoughts on this? Something you want to get involved in, or you're gonna keep watching?
I would keep watching personally, or if you said, to buy it, because that's like your play. I'm not too good on those gap ups immediately.
So what I would do is let's just go through how I'm gonna approach this. So we see the first 2 volume sticks of the day being the highest, and then it does nothing the rest of the day. So volume support, it's actually below that volume support area. What I would like is for it to come in and undercut this consolidation intraday. I'm on a 15-minute now. We're analyzing the HV day. Okay, so come in and undercut this low, and see if demand comes right back in. So that might be the low risk play that you take. This is right here. So if it comes in on Monday, gaps into this area, right, undercuts it while holding 30, comes back up, fills that in, and then see if it rallies up and through. That would really be the best case scenario right here. So if we do that, great. If we don't, if we gap down and stay down, but it's a low risk spot. You're gonna risk 80 to 90 cents. You can build out a position to see if it goes up and rallies through that. Quick look at, if we go to daily, bring up the stats table. Just want to look at the surprise numbers. Not much of a surprise. Revenue is increasing, but not all that fast, right? And projections are that they won't make money on a per share basis for quite a while still. So in terms of the stats on this name, fundamentally not that great, but technically it's the highest volume ever, so you want to pay attention to it, see what it does, and it will remain on my focus list. Connection is stuttering. A lot of people don't like it. Okay, WGS will remain. I have a position. TOST, let's just speak through that. The recording will be posted, so let's go to weekly. So let's talk about weekly supply zones. So weekly supply zones are basically where the stock broke down and then never looked back and entered a massive base. So this TOST has kind of done that below this 25, 26 neckline, and we're seeing an attempt to come in through that. Once we break this weekly supply zone and really get going to the upside, right? Really get going to the upside, we're gonna see a fast move into this area right here. So we'll see if that happens, but you have a whole base underneath 25. If we go to the weekly and then we go to the daily, is a stock I wish it had closer to 30 million or more. It's gonna need a lot of volume to push through this 27.5 and really get going to the upside. So Nick, let's take a look at TOSDs. Get your thoughts on that.
That's really nice. I was not aware of that. Yeah, that's really nice. What do they do?
They're the company that you know the when you go to, it's like Clover, I think, if I'm not mistaken. You know Clover payments,
Oh yeah, yeah.
US
Yeah,
based
this is like
restaurant technology that provides point of sale payment processing. So like when you pay at restaurants and stuff, some companies use this QR code where they give you like the receipt or whatever. You scan that and you go to Toast and you just pay it. So you don't have to like you just pay while you're sitting. You don't go anywhere, especially at restaurants and stuff.
nice. This is I just added it to my focus list. It looks like an early stage too. Very good.
Yeah. It also has that came down, reclaimed that Stenwood Stenwood be this is stage 1 right here, right? Or stage 1 right here and then stage 2 because it's above the MAs goes into the supply zone. Okay. Let's keep going. This is Zeta. This is another one that's on my focus list. Uh, highest weekly volume, right? Skyscrapers up the right side on the weekly, and then if I go to the daily, um, I really like the fact that it's holding 15, and I've been building a position out slowly, and I like the fact that volume was above average each of the days after the gap up. So there's enough interest that exists in this name, and then we're holding that spot. So I built my position around the 15, 15.25, and it got scooped up on Friday as well. So I don't know if you see something on the weekly, but on the daily, I think this looks really great. What I also like is the surprise numbers were 104% EPS surprise, and revenue is growing steadily, but 23% quarter over quarter growth. Not much of like a bigger surprise. Estimates are being revised up, but still remain negative. So it's not fully profitable throughout the year, but it's starting to show that it's making money. Some sort of growth here, but from a technical perspective, it looks really great to me. So it's showing RS is increasing, and it also actually showed RS new high before price in this area, which gives me confidence that this was under accumulation here as well. So someone's anticipating something, but in terms of price action, we're seeing RS new highs. So I don't have anything else on my focus list. I usually go through IPOs as well. We're about an hour into this stream, but let's just quickly go through a few IPOs, see if anything's interesting. The reason I go through IPOs is to get a gauge of risk appetite in the market. CEG is acting well. Whoa. This is Coursera, by the way. Yikes. Get rid of this. Our favorite stock, CRDO. After it did this. Jeez. Let's keep going. It just gives me, are IPOs being supported or are they being neglected? It usually gives you, like, if risk appetite exists or it doesn't. Quickly go through, see if anything catches my eye. Obviously Reddit made me pause because it's an IPO. So as you go through your routines, you want to build a habit of, okay, you can flip a lot of charts. I think if you're like year 1 to 7, you should flip a lot of charts because you're trying to train your eye to look for good ones and to ignore bad ones. And the only way that you will do that is to really flip hundreds and hundreds of charts, right? It will just give you a feel. You'll trade, a crappy name and you'll learn from it. But I think I've been through this one. I'm going to quickly go through HDF next to see if anything's good here.